Alright, so 2-minute Tanya tidbit for today. So in the previous chapter we explained the idea of Kelipa, that something which a person does, God forbid, which is against the Torah, that energy is tied down to the hands of Kelipa and therefore cannot be elevated unless he does a proper tshuva on it. Now in today's chapter we say that this is especially true when it comes to not kosher food. As if somebody eats not kosher food, even if it was accidental, and even if he had in mind all the right thoughts that he was going to serve God with it, and even if he actually used that energy, and he ate the food and he actually served God using the energy from this not kosher food, that not kosher food cannot be elevated to God, because it's tied down, it's usur, which means tied down to the hands of Kelipa, and so therefore cannot be elevated even if he does actually serve God with it. And this is also even if it's something which is rabbinical, because even something which is not usur, forbidden, from actual biblical sources, but the rabbinical words as well are extremely strong. As it says, Chamurim divrei seifim yeser miyeinei shel Torah, that the words of the Chachamim are very, very strict, even more than the ideas of the words of Torah. So they're fully usur as well, and cannot be elevated when a person does it. As opposed to if it was something which was permissible that he had eaten, then it's easily able to be fixed up. As when he will go ahead and he'll use that energy to actually serve God, it will come out of Kelipa, that energy which went to that food, and will be able to go to Kedusha. But still, since he ate it for his own enjoyment, it still makes an effect on the body. And therefore that body will have to rot after the person passes away, called chibut kever, as the person's body enjoyed from this world, and therefore it's going to have to go and rot and to get rid of that enjoyment from this world after the person passes away. The only exception is if the person didn't enjoy from this world. And that's seen by the idea of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, who never enjoyed from this world at all. And therefore he didn't have to have this idea of chibut kever. Now there's also other punishments which come for the other sins, which need to be done in order to get rid of this Kelipa, which comes connected to a person. An example for this is the idea of an Am Haaretz, who is allowed to learn, who is not able to learn Torah. Therefore, he's allowed to speak random words, things which are not necessarily very techendik. They don't have actual substance to it, but still, that body is going to have to go to Kaf HaKela, the soul. After he passes away, it needs to go to Kaf HaKela, which means that the soul is thrown into the ideas of holy godliness, and it sees the truth, but then it's thrown back into the things that he did, the words that he spoke, and it's very painful for the neshama to go back and forth. And so too anybody else who does the idea of bittul Torah, he doesn't learn Torah when at the time that he's able to, he has to suffer, and it's not enough to just have Kaf HaKela for him, but rather he has to have something more, as in addition to the regular punishment, which every positive command which is transgressed has to go to Gehenim of snow, as because the idea of Gehenim of snow is something frozen. The person who's lazy, he didn't do a positive command, he didn't move. That's the idea of being frozen. So to anybody who goes against a positive command needs to go to Gehenim of snow. But there's an additional punishment as well for the idea of bittul Torah, because it's a very stringent idea which is not done. And there's actually something which is even stricter than this, which is the idea of Chochmas Umas Ha'olam. When someone learns the intellect of the nations of the world, it's not only the idea of Dvarim B'Telim, which it also is, because it's a waste of time, it's not the words of Torah, but there's an additional problem with it. As when someone's just speaking empty words, there's nothing substance to it. It's just his feelings being expressed. As even someone who doesn't know anything, an ignoramus entirely, can speak the same way. Even if he's a fool, he can speak the same way. So he doesn't actually punish and ruin his mind. As opposed to somebody who's learning the ways of the not-Jews, he's actually impurifying his brain. His seichel is being full of other ways which are against God, and therefore it's a big problem for someone to learn the chachmas of the nations of the world, even if it's against the ways of Torah. Unless you're going to be able to use it for business in order to serve God and have enough money to be able to serve God in peace, or if you're able to actually use it itself to be able to serve Hashem. And that's the reason why the Rambam and the Ramban were able to learn these things and get involved in those businesses, because it was fully for the sake of serving Hashem. See you next time.